a studio's Triforce, embedded industry, and generating new power sources for your studio.
Hello, everybody. I'm super honored to be here. I would like to introduce you to Vanessa Gaudio. She is the International Business Developer on behalf of Vancouver Film School.
And I would like to introduce you to Caro Sensei. Caro is Vancouver Film School's alumni, currently an instructor, and also the director and founder of Original Fire, a game studio in BC that's recent game called Circuit Superstars was just announced and is funded by Square Enix. So we've all played Zelda at one time in our life, and we've all coveted the Triforce. Power, courage, and wisdom combined together makes the ultimate power. So what does the Triforce have to do with embedded industry?
So I think we can all agree that within our own creative studios, we have our own version of the Triforce, only it's manifested as talent, resources, and infrastructure. So these three elements together determine whether our studios fail or succeed. And what we'd like to discuss today is how the Canadian gaming educational landscape is particularly unique in nurturing and sustaining your studio's Triforce. We're going to tackle these 3 points. But first, we want to set the stage by telling you a little bit more about the key players in all of this for some context.
So internationally, Japan has been for decades the cultural center for gaming. Aesthetics, plot, technology have often been the yardstick that sets gamers across the world to try and be like you. But that said, the current landscape is providing serious challenges to the studio's Triforce, some that are unique to Japan and some challenges that are universal. Like studios everywhere, infrastructure and resources are financially and logistically challenging. But one unique challenge particular to Japan is finding the right talent. With the low unemployment rate and an even lower level of business English, it's becoming harder and harder for micro to medium-sized game studios in Japan to reach an international audience. And so, part of our discussion today is about proposing strategies that can help you turn these challenges into opportunities.
So, to talk a little bit about the Canadian market, since 2015, Canada has seen a really massive expansion within the game industry in dollars, numbers, and success stories. Today, 3.7 billion of Canada's gross domestic product comes solely from the video game industry. And in fact, this number rises up to 22 billion when considering all crossover industries in creative industries and tech industries across Canada, making us a really new leader in tech. We have almost 600 companies, which is a stat that continues to shock me when I read it. So at the World Economy Forum in 2018, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke on how diversity in the labor force is a source of strength because of the dynamic innovation that comes from having a group of people with different backgrounds working with talents to share and creating something new. So I'm personally a walking example of this being manifested. I'm Mexican. I studied in Canada through a scholarship that was offered to me. And then I built a career in Canada and started a Canadian business with international funding. So due to these and other factors, Canada continues to attract a significant amount of foreign investment, particularly with larger companies opening branch offices. Yeah, so some points to keep in mind is that while Montreal, Vancouver, and Toronto are the main gaming hubs, over the past 2 years, Canada has seen significant developments in central Canada. The game industry is strong across the entire country, with these companies representing almost every province of the Great North. And this is due to the fact that tax incentives are provided for both international and domestic game studios at a federal, provincial, and even local levels. And furthermore, we have dedicated trade commissioners that not only help Canadians succeed in other countries, but also help you succeed in Canada. So to illustrate how, we want to share with you BFS's own success stories at embedded industry and how that relationship between educational institutions and studios is something that is mutually beneficial and contributes to this network of success. With this, our goal is to demonstrate how Canada's bright industry landscape is a potential arena for all of you.
And first, we'd just like to introduce ourselves. Vancouver Film School was founded in 1987 with just 12 students. Now we've grown to 3 different schools: the School of Film, the School of Animation, and the School of Games and Creative Technology. We now have 1,300 full-time students and hundreds more for our customized programs. 53% of our students are international, and we have 11 foreign offices, including Korea, Turkey, and many in Latin America. We have 2 international campuses in Shanghai and Mumbai, and 500 employees. For us, the secret to our success comes from our unique curriculum, which is a 1-year intensive program where in 52 weeks, students come to school for 48. With that, we're known as being the #1 animation school in the world for 4 years now, and top 15 game schools in the world, according to the Princeton Review. So every year we make a video that is about our accomplishments, and this is just some of the things that we do in our 8 campuses located in downtown Vancouver. And these are some film titles that our alumni have been working on just in 2018.
So that video showcased a lot of our working film. But behind me, these are some of the titles that show where our students work from or work on. Some of them are currently working on Cyberpunk, which I know that a lot of people are very excited about. But again, the results speak for themselves. All right, so with this understanding of who BFS is, and then the fertile Canadian gaming landscape that we've talked about, as well as industry fact about Japan, let's get back into the studio Triforce.
So today, we're going to explore how embedded industry can help create an ecosystem that sustains long-term success for your company by using VFS as an example. So together, we'll discuss each point individually and offer examples. So first, let's start with talent. But what do we mean by talent?
So with talent, we're referring to any person that takes part in creating a game. So from game developers to game studio owners to students, alumni, instructors, and mentors.
So a challenge for any school in creative industry is that it faces the challenge of ensuring that their teachers and mentors are industry savvy. So by that, I mean that they're teaching what is relevant in the industry today and not what was relevant yesterday. In terms of our student body, there are several struggles for any admissions team. One is to ensure that when our students graduate, they are ready at the global level. And that means supporting and assessing our students' English levels to ensure that their skills are internationally relevant and not anchored to one city. Admissions also needs to support multiple recruiting channels to ensure that our classrooms represent the population, and that goes back to diversity. What we need is to ensure that we have students with different genders, ages, sexual orientations, nationalities, languages, and so forth in order to provide them with the Canadian experience.
Now, from the studio's perspective, this is also true for game studios that want to reach global markets. Because in order to appeal to global markets, games themselves need to be diverse. And the teams that are making those games need to be diverse as well. And to create diverse teams, you need to be recruiting diverse talent, which brings us back to the school. Diversity in development teams is what we see as a systemic challenge that we can influence by nurturing diversity in the school. Canada is home to many leading colleges and universities that offer specialized game development programs for both local and international students. So I want to give you an example of what a diverse team, oops, sorry, what just happened? I want to give you an example of what a diverse team can make. So this game's called Pulse, and it was a VFS game design final project. So this game was created by a team of men and women from Canada, the US, and Brazil. In this game, you play as a blind girl who is using these little creatures from the forest to find her way back to safety. Now, when you see this game, and I tell you that it's a first-person game, it's likely that you would think of the usual pattern that we see, which is first-person shooters, or you would think of a game like Halo or Call of Duty. So this game took an existing pattern and a game genre that's been very, very much used, and then they completely changed it and added a completely new narrative. So Pulse is what happens when a team with different backgrounds, with different interests and tastes come together to create something new. It's innovation. So another way for schools and studios to overcome talent challenges is to create a network between between educators, students, and mentors. So we have what we call mentorship programs, which are when individuals from the industry come into the school to work directly with our students. So mentors are assisting students to solve problems when the students are directly facing those problems in development. Mentors cover all sectors of the industry, so that programmers, designers, animators, etc. in the game team have support. A byproduct of that is that students get to witness the range of roles that they can perform in the industry and connect with people that can potentially hire them. So in addition to that, when mentors connect with students, they can identify potential talent to bring into their studios and go from mentors to employers. What's important here is that they get to see the student working and facing challenges, and we see it as kind of a lengthy interview.
Another way embedded industry develops diverse talents is by offering scholarships with employment contracts. Blackbird Interactive hosted a full scholarship for 2 female applicants to Vancouver Film School's game design program. The winners would receive, upon successful completion at VFS, a 6-month contract at Blackbird. Furthermore, while they were studying, both recipients were assigned mentors from Blackbird and the Coalition, a Microsoft studio. Women make up over 50% of gamers, and yet that is not reflected in the teams that are building the games themselves. Blackbird saw that in their own studios and did something about it through this scholarship. And so to recap, talent is a challenge for schools and studios, often because of the need for teams to represent the global market, and that means diversity. And Canada is in a particularly strong position for this because it's part of our immigration and cultural collaboration is just part of our history. Embedded industry then allows for students to connect with creative professionals who can connect them with the right opportunities.
And then in turn, when it comes to benefits to the studio, studios need to be nurturing their leaders and they need to be creating new leaders. So internship and mentorship opportunities help mid-level employees practice their leadership skills, as well as source new potential future for designers, animators, programmers, etc. It's really a fantastic opportunity to practice leadership and guidance for both. All right, so let's chat about the second pillar, which is infrastructure. What do we mean by infrastructure?
By infrastructure, we mean the space and hardware that is used in all things games. So everything physical used to build your space. And what we find is that especially with infrastructure, challenges are synonymous with the studio and the school.
So real estate is expensive. This is one of the core challenges, especially for studios established around Vancouver. If you're a small business, it's likely that it's going to be a huge part of your expense. All tools and gears for computer development, from software to hardware, are something that depreciates very quickly. So this is an ongoing cost for developers and schools. We need to constantly be investing in our software and our hardware. It's okay. So I want to give you two simple examples of how embedded industry can help solve those challenges. So LG is, well, everybody knows the brand. And the way that we collaborated with them is they set up a free 40 computers setup, which are curved. The curved computers that now form our 3D lab. So this is used as a classroom, as a rendering farm, as a development center. And the lab is branded. So students become accustomed to using LG products. And then the same goes for AMD. So AMD created a game design lab for game design students to be able to develop and play games in their full spec machines. So not only did this bring an entire infrastructural cost to zero for the school, but it also turned our students into evangelizers of LG and AMD products and they are talent that is about to hit the industry. So for a more extreme example of embedded industry, we want to talk about Beyond Capture. Beyond Capture is a motion capture studio for games, film, television. They create customized motion capture solutions for large studios such as Capcom, EA, Gearbox. Their Vancouver soundproof studio contains over 40 cameras in the room, and then another room with 40 head cameras. So this is a 32,000 square foot studio that involved a $2 million investment, all done within the campus of Vancouver Film School.
VFS and Beyond Capture have a strong interdependent relationship. So 30% of the studio's time is devoted to teaching our students. In return, Beyond Capture got a subsidized tendency agreement. And all of this happens in the basement of our animation studio.
So this video demonstrates that the partnership works in exposing the student to authentic, unique experiences. So through this collaboration, Beyond Capture got to be really among the first motion capture studios to do motion capture with animals, and then our students were the ones that got to experiment with them. So this relationship follows students post-graduation because our students get a discount to work with Beyond Capture, or rather the studios that our students work at get a discount to work with Beyond Capture. So again, just this goes to show how we increase the value of our students.
So LG, AMD, and Beyond Capture are all examples of how embedded infrastructure lowers costs for a school and avoids waterfall experience that other educational institutions often have. So because we're having the current technology, our students are doing and not just knowing.
And then the benefits that come back to our studio is that international or domestic physical presence in the schools results in real estate cost. But it also promotes the brand of the companies that we're working with their future customers who are our students. So for our last pillar, let's get into resources. What do we mean by resources?
So resources refers to opportunities to expose, inform, fund, incubate, and promote all things games. We find it the most difficult to discuss in comparison to talent and infrastructure because it's not something that's quantifiable. A company can say, we hired 8 students from your school, or we've invested $2 million in this lab. But how do you quantify meeting a potential hire or a potential partner? So the challenge when it comes to resources is that during the academic year, students have a very structured schedule. They have work they're detailed for them, right? And also their peers and their colleagues are all predetermined. And then it's the day after graduation, and they come to us with anxiety. Now what?
The challenge for the studio is really something that is hard to pinpoint because a lot of these challenges are circumstantial. They all have to do with where a studio is at in their history, what kind of games they're trying to make, what kind of talent do they have, how big is their team, what are some of the financial and creative challenges. So we want to share a couple of examples that have worked for us in the past and that inspire our relationships in the future. So first, let's talk about Electric Playground.
To lots of goons, you can chainsaw them up or throw tires at them.
Thank you. Electric Playground is a web show that's dedicated to reviewing video games since 1995. And through the years, they've created a huge community and following of gamers that appreciate their critical reviews of games.
In 2019, Electric Playground announced that they will be hosting their show live at Vancouver Film School's Cafe. So this is an opportunity for our students, our staff, and general public to watch Victor Lucas as he interviews creative industry talents. This relationship now has evolved, where Victor Lucas now hosts a scholarship for game programming at VFS, and he also hosts VFS's Game Design and Programming event, Pitch and Play.
So what is Pitch and Play? So this event that Victor Lucas helps us host is basically the pinnacle of the student projects. After 6 months of developing their games, as part of their final projects, students have to pitch their games and present their projects to an audience of industry members and mentors. So over time, Pitch and Play has really turned into an industry event that is kind of a networking opportunity known across the Vancouver community.
So by embedding resources like Electric Playground and Pitch and Play, we can see how an organic network evolves over the years to come for the school and the studio alike. Finally, for our final example, it's not just about resources, but really about the entire studio's Triforce. We want to focus on Original Fire, an alumni-owned embedded industry at Vancouver Film School. Their story illustrates how community drives opportunity to further develop talent and infrastructure for unexpected success.
So, Original Fire Games is the company that I started with my siblings from Mexico. Today, we are a 7-person team creating the game Circuit Superstars, which we're developing at our HQ in Vancouver Film School's game design campus. With this video, we announced Circuit Superstars at E3 in 2019, and we announced as well our partnership with Japanese very own Square Enix.
Our game mixes top-down racing with a classic sharp arcade.
So what's very cool about this partnership is that in return for being supported with a space to develop our game and a space to host our team, Original Fire Games, the entire crew that you're seeing here as well as the rest of our team, have turned into teachers and mentors to the students of the school. So we provide mentorship and guidance to game design students.
So the benefits for resources and for studios is that a labyrinth is created between the studio and the school. So,
to summarize, what should you care about any of this? With embedded industry, you can nurture the evolution of your industry, the industry that you're a part of or the global one, through the unexpected opportunities that are born from creating these connections that we've exemplified. And for all of us to get there, we need to think of long-term solutions to change the challenges of a studio's Triforce into opportunities.
As you've seen, there are many opportunities to explore here. And often, I've heard Japanese say that it's difficult to expand Japan's borders and that it's not part of your culture. And yet, I just don't buy it. Fukuzawa Yukichi, Nitobe Iazo, and Sakamoto Ryoma are all examples of how historically Japan has gone abroad and taken the best aspects of other cultures and innovated in a way that made it their own. And so we're asking you, imagine a scholarship for a female Japanese student to study programming in Canada and return ready to work in your studio.
Or imagine expanding into the Canadian market by partnering with a creative school that allows for easier access to foreign market of talent to bring them back.
And imagine developing your network right here in Japan by having your staff involve themselves in educational institutions.
So there is a long-term investment in embedded industry, and for some of these things you won't see the results immediately. It's all a matter of time. But from the time that we've spent at VFS and in Canada's thriving gaming industry, we know that the effort is worth it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I'm not sure if there's time for questions in here, but we will be outside if you want to reach out to us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.